Our last presentation for the year, this very strange year. Very proud of all you seniors for adjusting to some pretty extreme circumstances. The last of the coronavirus presentations are by Nicholas Girdler and Emily Greathouse from Hanover College, and they will talk about correlational study of anxiety, God locus of control, and superstitious beliefs.
Okay, so I just want to give you all an overview of what we looked at and what we're going to discuss within this presentation. So we looked at we wanted to look at the relationship between anxiety belief systems, defined as superstitious beliefs, religious beliefs, and religiosity. And then we also wanted to look at the relationship with God locus of control. To do that, we ran a regression analyzing the data that we collected.
Okay, so to begin, I would like to talk about a previous study that we did in research design and methods. So the previous study that we looked at belief systems and anxiety, and a little bit of background as to why we wanted to look at those is we recognize that personal belief systems, they're very important to people. They're in people's everyday lives constantly. Decisions are made based on these religious and spiritual aspects. If you take into consideration how often people pray, or whether they go out and they're doing a soccer game and they do a little chant and everything, without that chant they don't feel like they're going to be ready for it, which would be a superstitious belief, or carry around a little lucky charm or something. These things are in people's everyday lives and they really believe that they have an impact on it. And we wanted to see how this could interact with an individual. And so we looked at anxiety because usually people, they will pray or meditate or something to do something that is favorable, or to come up with a favorable outcome, or to try to stop something that isn't as favorable. So we looked at anxiety with this. So whenever we looked at belief systems and anxiety, we first looked at Dimish, which observed that applying superstitious beliefs, athletes yielded better results. So they had them have a lucky charm, and basically with or without this lucky charm or whatever ritual that they had before the game, actually having this little outlet or way of trying to create good luck for themselves, it actually made their performance better. And we also looked at another study, which was by James, and it found that negative spiritual beliefs were predictive of anxiety. And so, and that the spiritual beliefs include religious and superstitious beliefs. So that was what we looked at in our original study. And we found really interesting data for that. And from our data analysis, we found an interesting pattern that we wanted to continue in this study as well. But we decided to expand it to religion and locus of control also. So just to give you a little background, God locus of control is basically when an individual believes that the powers that be have influence in their life, so more of a direct influence. So we wanted to look into that a lot because it kind of went along with the superstitious belief that these beliefs can actually predict outcomes in your life. So we expanded to God locus of control. One thing that we switched is it's not just God locus of control, it's powers that be, so it expands to more than just one specific deity. It's more of a religious and spiritual aspect. So, and then we looked at religiosity as well, and we looked at all of these. So God locus of control, religiosity, anxiety, and belief systems, which were mostly focused on superstitious beliefs.
So just to get an idea of what we gave our participants, we gave them a typical informed consent form that just told them what we were going to be looking at, told them that they could withdraw their consent to participate in the study at any time with no negative impact on them. They were given a demographic section to fill out, just asked like age, race, education level, country of origin, things like that. And then they were also given 4 inventories. The first inventory they were given was an anxiety inventory that measured anxiety levels. We found a state trait anxiety inventory by Verhoff that seemed to fit what we were looking for really well. It was just a typical state trait anxiety inventory. We extracted the trait anxiety questions so that we got an idea of the participants' anxiety on a typical day rather than just in the moment. And then they were also given a belief systems inventory, which measured the person's superstitious beliefs. We created this inventory ourselves based on common superstitious beliefs in North America. We tested it for its reliability, and as you can see, the convex alpha was 0.761. So it was pretty reliable.
So the next inventory that we had was God locus of control, and it measured how strongly a participant believed that the powers that be could directly influence or control their behavior. We got the scale from Timmons and Martin. They were looking at a new way to measure this, as it's been done in the past, but it had been done differently. The only thing that we changed on this is we changed it from questions like pertaining to just God. They said, do you believe that God, and then blah, blah, blah. We changed it to powers that be because we also wanted to look at a spiritual idea and other religions that wouldn't necessarily believe in a God. So that's the only thing that we changed with that. All of the rest of the dictation is the same. And then we also looked at religiosity, which measures a person's beliefs, personal beliefs in relation to their religion. So an example of some of that we had was, do you consider yourself a spiritual person? Do you believe in an afterlife? It's the Holy Scripture should be taken literally. These are some examples of the questions. And for both of these, we had a 4-point Likert scale that we measured them on. So 1 would be strongly agree, and 4 would be strongly disagree, and we just had them rate them.
So like I said, they went through they filled out the demographic section, they filled out 4 inventories, but they also filled out a debriefing form that was just letting them know that they had resources to reach out to. It was just a typical debriefing form. So we collected all of our participants' data. We ended up having 487 participants. We had posted the study on psychological research on the net, various social media platforms, and we also emailed a small liberal arts college student body just to get it out there. We ended up with 233 female participants, 221 male participants, and 33 participants that declined to report their gender. And then they ranged between the ages of 18 and 69, with education levels ranging between some high school to some post-baccalaureate education. And as you can see, we also had a lot of people from, we had people from a lot of different nationalities, countries, ranging from the UK to Finland to Germany to Taiwan, things like that. So once we collected our data, we ran a regression with the outcome variable of anxiety, predictor variables of religiosity, belief systems, and God locus of control. It needs to be noted that we ran the regression with and without the God locus of control variable as a predictor variable. We decided to remove the God locus of control from our final findings because it did not add anything to the overall fit of the model. It didn't increase the R-squared significantly, and it didn't have any statistical significance at all. So as you can see, there was a negative relationship between anxiety and religiosity that was statistically significant, and there was a positive relationship between belief systems and anxiety.
So the first thing that I would like to mention in the discussion is actually one of the limitations we ran into. So embarrassingly, we forgot to put in the demographics section the first time around, and we ended up clocking up about 100 participants before we noticed. So we were really worried about this at first because we just got 100 participants and now we have to take them all out because we don't have the demographics section. So we were really worried about this at first. However, later we ended up looking at all the data. We saw that, which you'll see in the discussion points, that we had originally limited it to North America. So we ended up throwing all of them in just to see what it looked like and everything. And we found that if we threw all of the people in from any country that had answered the questions completely, of course, but no matter what country they were, if we had them all together, then I'm sorry, what? Oh, okay. That we would had found the significant data. So we ended up looking at this and found an article by Sierra that noted that there is a lot of overlap between superstitious beliefs. So a lot of cultures believe in the power that numbers have, a superstitious belief that there are lucky charms. So we ended up having a reason to expand it, which gave us 400 participants. Apparently the COVID-19 self-quarantine is actually working out in our favor for this one. So we ended up expanding it beyond North America, despite our previous idea of keeping it just in North America. So for future research, something that we wanted to look at is we did want to look at the God locus of control because we weren't really sure why it wasn't getting the expected results. So we wanted to expand to see if maybe there was a different way that we could measure it or go back and see if maybe the previous scales would be better to work with or not. But that is one thing that we would like to do with future research. So.
Are there any questions?
Are there any?
So thinking about your, if you can go back to where you said that unexpected, like low beta weight, like the low correlation between the God locus of control. I think it was like the last slide.
Yes, I'm trying. It is lagging far greater than I expected.
So while you find it, so some of the things that can shrink correlations are low reliability or restriction of range. What was your reliability for the God locus of control? I don't remember.
So we had extracted it from a previous, already existing study. So we actually don't have the reliability. We didn't test the reliability ourselves.
So I would definitely test the reliability here, because if you have low reliability for your sample, with that scale, it could be one reason why the correlation is smaller. And the other thing could be looking at the standard deviation. Like if everyone's just like very squished together and not a lot of variability on that variable, that can shrink the correlation too. So just two things probably I would recommend to check before like reading too much into that. Especially if you, cough, cough, plan to publish this. You have quite good statistical validity with that big sample size, so I'd think about that.
Okay.